This week on Aussie JetSetter, we're flying on a blast from the past on Virgin Australia. We're not flying on any of the airline's stalwart old Boeing 737 aircraft. We're flying on the airline's arguably least comfortable aircraft. So we're flying on just one of its 5 Western Australia based aging Airbus A320 aircraft, which are ex-hand-me-down aircraft of Australia's long defunct budget carrier Tiger Airways, which were renowned for their horrible legroom and lack of much in the way of modern amenities. But does flying on an ex-Tiger Air Airbus A320 really equate to a subpar Virgin Australia experience in 2025 compared to what you may have typically been accustomed to flying on the airline's large fleet of stalwart Boeing 737 aircraft? To answer that question, come and join me as we fly on one of Virgin Australia Regional Airlines' longest routes, some 4 hours between Darwin and Perth, so we get to see really what the onboard experience is actually like in terms of in-flight service and hard product combined, and whether it really is objectively that much different or even worse, a burden to the overall Virgin Australia experience in 2025. Hello, good morning and welcome to beautiful sunny tropical Darwin. We only just got here yesterday, believe it or not. About 4 o'clock we actually flew in on AirAsia Indonesia on their free-time weekly service from Denpasar, Bali. That was a really good flight itself, really couldn't fault AirAsia in terms of the onboard product. It was a very quiet flight and yeah, they really much delivered what you paid for, and the flight was an absolute bargain, $166 with luggage. However, if you saw that flight review, maybe it's already up, maybe it's coming out soon, you'll know that I was not very well on that flight at all. So it was really quite an agonizing day, probably the worst travel day I've ever had, especially on the Aussie JetSetter YouTube channel. Was just in so much pain and discomfort. Just couldn't wait to get back to Australia. Anyway, sought a bit of medical attention later last night once I arrived, just to make sure I didn't have a more serious issue. And yeah, they run some basic tests as well, gave me some fluids, some pain relief, and yeah, seemed to feel much better today. So yeah, it was a bit of a curveball yesterday. My plans for Darwin have been a bit of a write-off. So yeah, be sure to check out that video when it comes out, if it isn't already out, to hear more about exactly how I was so unwell. But nonetheless, seem to feel much better today. So it's a new day today. Yesterday was a bit of a write-off. Anyway, on to today's flight. The good news is the doctors have assured me that I'm good to fly today. I was really worried last night I actually might be stuck in Darwin, potentially for another night or two, too unwell to travel. But I seem to be on the mend now. They seem to think I'm good to fly. Definitely feel much better this morning. So yeah, hopefully we're still good later this afternoon. But yeah, just going to take it nice and easy, not take any risk or anything like that. Yeah, nonetheless, we are flying back to Perth today, flying on Virgin Australia on their notorious Airbus A320 ex-Tiger Air aircraft. Obviously, originally was just going to fly straight back to Perth on Jetstar from Bali. But yeah, when I saw the super cheap flight to Darwin with Indonesia AirAsia, I decided to cancel that, get the credit refund because I had the Flex Plus bundle. So yeah, done this really roundabout way, got the cheap flight to Darwin. Now we're continuing on to Perth. Virgin Australia were really the only non-excessive way to get back to Perth. Qantas were over $1,000 for their direct flight. Yeah, indirect flights with Jetstar were like over $1,000 as well. So yeah, very much getting this flight as a necessity to get back to Perth. Have reviewed the A320 before with Virgin Australia. That was a couple of years ago from Adelaide to Perth. It was a very uncomfortable flight because obviously the legroom is notoriously bad on the ex-Tiger Air A320s. Yeah, it was a full flight. It just was not a very fun experience. It was delayed as well. So yeah, I have actually reviewed the Darwin to Perth flight before. That was actually on QantasLink, also on one of their Airbus A320s. So yeah, the Darwin to Perth route really has a bit of a letdown. All the hand-me-down ex-budget carrier aircraft on these flights. Nonetheless, it still is another flight and still is a flight to review. So yeah, really looking forward to the flight. Luckily, according to the seat map, it's at least going to be hopefully a lot more quiet. Hopefully can get the whole aisle to myself. So without further ado, I'm just going to chill here now for a couple more hours. Luckily, it's a 12 o'clock check out this hotel. So still got some time to rest up and recuperate. Probably just then head out, have a light walk around Darwin, get some lunch, which will be really good as I haven't really eaten in over 24 hours. Got a bit of an appetite now, so that's always a good sign. And yeah, we'll head to the Darwin International Airport a bit later for our 5 o'clock flight to Perth. Hope it's a good one. See you there. Before we head into Airport Terminal Building, let's have a look at the route information for flight VA1438 down to Perth this evening. Great circle distance on this one is 2,646 kilometres. Gazetted flight time bang on 4 hours. Though today we're going to do it in just 3 hours and 34 minutes, levelling off at 34,000 feet. And just like that, it's a beautifully warm, sunny and dry, perfect winter's afternoon here at Darwin Airport. For your information, you'll find Darwin's airport located in its northern suburbs about 8 kilometres from the city centre. Being the capital of the Northern Territory, Darwin has a relatively modest population of just 140,000 people. But don't let this deceive you, Darwin Airport really punches above its weight in terms of total passenger numbers. It is actually the 11th busiest airport in the whole of Australia, servicing shy under 2 million yearly passenger movements. About 1.6 million of these were domestic and about 230,000 were international. Perhaps due to Darwin's relative close proximity to many Southeast Asian capitals, which the city is actually geographically closer to than most of Australia's main population centres. Perhaps explains its relatively more comprehensive international route network than many airports servicing similar sized cities in Australia. Anyway, once we're inside, now you'll notice all commercially scheduled passenger flights here at Darwin all operate under the one roof. Internationally, you can fly to Bali, where we just arrived from yesterday, Singapore, Dili in East Timor, Kuala Lumpur, and even Guangzhou, China. Domestically, you can fly to all Australia's capitals with the exception of Hobart and countless regional centres as well. Anyway, on to check-in and bag drop here at Darwin Airport. Pretty much a self-service, fully automated affair across the board for most airlines here at Darwin. In fact, they use communal check-in and bag drop kiosks. Bringing up your booking is very easy. Multiple ways you can do it. Name and destination, booking reference number, boarding pass, even your passport, all should bring up your booking. From here you can print off your physical boarding pass and your bag tags. You may even also be able to review and change your seat selection or add your frequent flight number. Then it's on to self-service baggage drop, which is also equally as straightforward here at Darwin Airport. Simply plonk your bag on the belt, scan your boarding pass, follow the aviation security prompts, and yeah, off your bag should go to Perth this evening. So yeah, pretty much easy as that, all very straightforward and efficient here at Darwin Airport. Very quiet time of the afternoon. Most of the flights heading back to the east coast all leave late at night. So yeah, Perth is a bit of an oddity for a late afternoon flight. Then it was off to security, which was equally as quick and efficient here at this time of day. Very quiet, only took a matter of minutes to get through. I have the latest CT scanners here at Darwin Airport, so luckily nothing had to come out of my bags, all very easy. For your information, similar to Adelaide Airport and several other smaller international airports in Australia, if you are travelling internationally, you'll first need to pass through domestic security before you can then proceed to a second security checkpoint for international departures and outbound customs control. So just keep this in mind if you are flying on one of the small handful of international airlines out of Darwin. You're probably best staying airside at the domestic departures area for greatest choice of shops and dining options. Also, if you are flying on Qantas's recently introduced Singapore service, if you are going to a Qantas lounge, the only option will be the Qantas Club prior to international departures. Anyway, before our inbound flight from Perth arrives, it's time for a bit of plane spotting. You'll notice here at Darwin International Airport / RAF base Darwin, very much is Embraer country here up in Darwin. If Perth was the Fokker capital of Australia, perhaps you could argue Darwin is the Embraer capital. Very much Qantas, Lions and Air North all operating plenty of Embraer E190 and E170s up here in Darwin. Anyway, let's now take the time to have a look at our inbound arriving aircraft, our Virgin Australia Regional Airlines Airbus A320-200 arriving as you see here from Perth. Today we're flying on Victor Hotel Victor November Delta. Nearly 18 years of age, this aircraft at time of taking flight. It was originally ordered by Tiger Airways of Singapore but not taken up. It was then delivered first to Tiger Airways Australia in November 2007 before it was finally taken over by Virgin Australia in July 2013, then transferred across to Virgin Australia Regional in March 2023. It's interesting to note that while Virgin Australia's fleet is absolutely dominated by the Boeing 737 group of aircraft, most notably the Dash 800, but also increasingly the Max 8, and in smaller numbers the Dash 700 as well. But in terms of Virgin Australia Regional Airlines, which are based here in West Australia, the A320 is the most predominant aircraft, even though there's just 5 of them. Top of that, you also got 3 Fokker 100s, which are very soon to be retired, and recently they introduced the first of 8 Embraer E190 E2 jets, which I had the privilege of travelling on the first inaugural public flight between Perth and Newman only the other day, so be sure to check out that review. Anyway, boarding is called on time and on schedule at gate 7. Looking like it's going to be a moderately busy flight today. Not exactly the quietest of flight, but not jam-packed either. So quietly confident of a spare middle row seat. And just like that, welcome aboard our somewhat nostalgic former ex-Tiger Airways Airbus A320. Standard all economy class layout on this one of 180 seats in a standard 3-3 configuration across 30 rows. Anyway, not 100% sure on seat pitch on these seats. Some sources on the internet suggest it could be 31 inches, but yeah, it certainly was never like that on Tiger, and it certainly feels a lot more cramped. I think in reality it's probably closer to 28 or 29 inches. Very cramped indeed. Along with that, it's standard black leather seating. Not much else in terms of bells and whistles, no USB charging, anything like that.
It's wonderful to have you aboard. Keeping you safe is our top priority. So before we take off, please give us your attention as we share it.
Anyway, without further ado, what better time now to sit back, relax and enjoy our taxi out to the runway here at Darwin International Airport. Our beautiful sunset takeoff out of the top end of Australia this evening. Then once firmly in the air, well and truly on our way to cruising altitude of 34,000 feet, on our way down towards Perth, we'll go over what you can expect on board with the Virgin Australia A320 experience in 2025.
stage, we're expecting smooth conditions in the climb out and the cruise, and we've managed to make up some time. We'll be arriving at 8:05. And current time in Perth is 4:20. Conditions on the ground, easterly wind, temperature of 13 degrees for our arrival, and clear skies. In the meantime, sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight.
Purchasing a purchase with a credit card or digital payment from your smart device will also be coming through with complimentary tea, coffee and water.
Anyway, now that we're well and truly in the air, rapidly ascending to our cruising altitude of 34,000 feet in the beautiful top-end sunset this evening, as first order of business, let's have a look at the Virgin Australia buy on board menu. So yeah, if you are flying economy on Virgin Australia, everything you have to pay for on board with the exception of tea, coffee and water. So in the menu you'll find a range of snacks, light bites such as toasties and sandwiches, and also soft drinks and alcoholic beverages. On select flights over 3.5 hours in duration, there is also several hot meal options available. Not available on this flight, however, even though it is around 4 hours in duration. Overall, in terms of pricing, wouldn't consider it exactly that affordable on Virgin Australia, probably $1 or $2 more expensive for most menu items over that of JetSetter. Not too hungry today, as had a late lunch in Darwin, so yeah, don't bother to order anything from the menu, just take up the cabin crew's offer of a free cup of coffee. And yeah, what more could I say? Tasted like typical filter coffee, nothing amazing, but got the job done. Aside from that, not too much to report about today's flight service-wise, as I didn't order anything from the onboard menu. But yeah, we are being now treated to an absolutely spectacular golden sunset over the top end of the Northern Territory, also as we cross into the absolutely stunning Kimberley region of Western Australia. Anyway, with our last rays of beautiful golden sunlight ever so slowly extinguishing, let's now have a look at the onboard entertainment service available on Virgin Australia. Luckily, it is also installed on this Airbus A320 aircraft. So Virgin Australia do have their complimentary stream to your own device entertainment system. You do need to stream it to your own device, your laptop, your iPad, or your iPhone or Android device. To connect, just simply follow the prompts on the back of the in-flight menu, or simply fire up the Virgin Australia Entertainment app once you're connected to the Virgin Australia internal Wi-Fi system. Once connected, you'll find a good overall range of movies, TV shows, children's content, podcasts, and a few other features. Strangely enough, there doesn't appear to be an in-flight moving map, which is a little bit annoying because it's definitely one of my favourite features to in-flight entertainment systems. Overall, I would assess the range of content available as being reasonable, but certainly nothing too exceptional. I've flown Virgin Australia many times this year and haven't noticed much rotation of the content available. I'm really much a documentary person, and yeah, there's not much in that regard. So yeah, I usually just download plenty of documentaries to my own device when flying Virgin Australia, because I rarely actually bother consuming their entertainment. Also, do take note on the Airbus A320, there is no actual Wi-Fi available for streaming the internet and other activities. So whilst you'd still have to pay for it flying economy class on the 737-800 aircraft, just keep that in mind, it's not available at all on the A320. Anyway, later on the flight, the crew come around with another complimentary tea, coffee and water service, so just grab another coffee and continue watching my own content. Anyway, before the flight is over, let's now check out one of the free onboard lavatories on the A320, one at the front of the aircraft and two at the rear. So overall, it's a fairly stock standard A320 aircraft lavatory here on Virgin Australia. Pretty compact, yeah, pretty neat and tidy nonetheless. Got everything you need, including basic amenities such as a baby change table and code book. So overall, kept in pretty good nick, especially this late in the flight. Anyway, aside from that, not too much more to report about today's flight after the sun went down. Yeah, pretty well now we're commencing our descent into Perth International Airport just after the sun's gone down. So a better time now to enjoy our nighttime arrival into Perth than what's on the ground. I'll go with my final thoughts and verdict about tonight's Virgin Australia Regional Airlines Airbus A320 experience.
First ever local time is 10 to 8. For everyone's safety, please keep your seatbelt fastened and we ask that you clear from after the seatbelt sign has been switched on. Take care of opening the lock of the button right in the main room during our flight. Please also check your seat pockets and the area around you to make sure you have everything that you need. We'll be moving through the forward door, both of those can't get inside anywhere in the terminal and you can close by. Now take your device from that road. If you have an onward connecting flight, we suggest checking your travel itinerary to see which terminal you're leaving from. All terminals we fly from here at Perth are just a walk apart. If you don't have an onward boarding pass, you'll need to collect your checked baggage before checking in for your next flight. Our ground team will be happy to help. We'd like to thank you for flying with Virgin Australia. It's been wonderful looking after you. We'd like to wish you a safe onward journey and hope to see you again soon. Thank you and good evening.
Just like that, welcome back to chilly Perth, where you can certainly notice a dramatic difference in temperature compared to warm and balmy Darwin, and of course beautiful tropical Bali, where we were for about a week immediately prior. Anyway, time to wrap up with my final thoughts and verdict about tonight's Virgin Australia Airbus A320 experience. As always, let's start with the beginning, going back to Darwin Airport, where check-in and bag drop this afternoon was very quick, easy and efficient. All very much a self-service affair, and security was also very easy. Yeah, we boarded on time and left on time, so absolutely no complaints from Virgin Australia or Darwin Airport in this regard. Once on board, in my opinion, it's hard not to miss the reality that the Virgin Australia Regional Airbus A320 in just about every regards is a far inferior product than the Virgin Australia Boeing 737s. Whilst Virgin Australia might like to position themselves in the market as a hybrid airline between that of budget carrier Jetstar and full service airline Qantas, you can't get around the reality that these A320s are ex-Tiger Airways aircraft who very much had a budget orientated cabin, Not too much different to that of Qantas and their Airbus A320s that they operate in West Australia, which happen to be former ex-JetSetter aircraft. The seating has very average legroom, definitely worse than on the 737 aircraft. There's no adjustable headrest, and forget about any modern amenities such as USB charging. One saving grace is that the in-flight entertainment stream-to-your-own device system is installed on these aircraft, though do take in mind there is no Wi-Fi for your own use however, which is available on the 737 aircraft at a charge for economy class passengers. Talking about classes of travel, there is no business class on the A320, which is a bit disappointing as this is one of the longest flights in Australia with a flight time of about 4 hours. Guess it's a case of Virgin Australia not really caring, as their only direct competitor on this route usually only deploys their Qantas A320s, which also don't have business class. So I think it's really disappointing that Darwin and Perth residents really have been neglected on this route, with both of the major airlines sending subpar aircraft to service this rather long flight. Hopefully this is really going to change soon however, with the introduction of Virgin Australia E190 E2 services on select Darwin to Perth routes. Hopefully Qantas will also follow suit with more Boeing 737-800 flights. Aside from that, putting the aircraft difference aside, everything else about this flight was a typical Virgin Australia experience. Same buy on board menu and the same complimentary tea, coffee and water service. And yeah, the in-flight entertainment were largely the same. The crew were friendly, the flight was punctual, and the price I paid, considering I booked this flight 2 days prior to departure, $369 inclusive of bags, thought was a reasonably fair price given the time. So all in all, aside from the subpar aircraft experience, which was slightly alleviated at least by having a middle seat free next to me, pretty much other than that it is best described as an unremarkable flight. Nothing particularly bad, but nothing particularly that stood out either. So yeah, got me from A to B with a minimum of fuss. So hard to complain in that regard. Let's just hope the end is near for subpar A320 servicing the Perth to Darwin corridor, as Northern Territory and West Australian residents deserve better. Anyway, that's it for our Darwin to Perth flight review this evening. Really hope you have enjoyed it. If so, please don't forget to give the video a height, like, comment, and of course subscribe to the channel. Share amongst your family and friends as well. But from here at Perth International Airport on a busy Monday night, thanks so much for watching, and until next one, safe travels wherever that might take you.